Hi, I'm Alec with FlashCut CNC. In this video, I will show you how to install and use a Spindle encoder kit. This kit includes a 500-line optical encoder, housing, cable, and a bracket to attach to a spindle housing. With the encoder kit and one of the FlashCut CNC I/O expansion boards, you can read the current spindle RPM from the FlashCut CNC software, and you can create threads of any dimension on a lathe. We will be installing this encoder kit on a Sherline 4400 lathe. With the kit comes an encoder kit cable, these two brackets, a brass housing, 4 440 by 1/4 screws, and 2 number 4 washers. In a separate package, you'll find all the parts necessary to put together your encoder kit. You'll also need a P1 screwdriver to complete this. To begin, we'll be taking this bracket and screwing on this plastic housing using 2 440 screws. You'll notice on the housing that there's one side that has a cutout for the encoder, while the other side is flat and smooth. You're going to want that side to be flush with the metal. So we're going to go ahead and screw the encoder assembly onto this bracket. Next, we will be taking this bracket, which has double-sided tape on the back, and mount it to the spindle mount. So we'll go ahead and peel that off, and the bottom of this should be flush with the bottom of the spindle mount, leaving room in the middle. You can see the hole in the bracket for the set screw of the spindle. So we'll go ahead and stick that onto there and press that firmly down so it stays in place. Now we're going to take this large encoder bracket and mount that. So what you have to do is take the bent part and kind of have it face the lathe, and what you have to do is slide it over the spindle like this, and then kind of swivel it over so that the bent part of the bracket is inside of the smaller bracket. And now, using 2 440 by 1/4 screws and 2 number 4 washers, we're going to go ahead and screw that into place. And you're not going to want to screw these in all the way. Leave them a little loose because later we need to align it. And now to align it, we have this metal disc. And what we're going to do is put this brass washer that comes with the kit. We're going to put that inside of the disc. And you'll see that there's 2 different diameters on the disc. You're going to want the smaller diameter to face the inside. And slide this so that it's inside the larger bracket. And once you have that, you can go ahead and completely tighten the screws. What this does is it aligns the encoder with the center spindle. Now we're going to go ahead and take off the alignment tool, take out the brass ring in the middle, and now we're going to take the actual encoder, and you'll see that there's one side that has 3 black screws and one side that doesn't. We're going to face it so that the 3 black screws are out away from the spindle. So we're going to put the brass ring inside there, and what this does is it'll keep it in place on the spindle. You have a plastic alignment tool. It acts as a spacer, so you'll see that the inner diameter of the encoder, you're going to want to wrap that around here. And when you slide this on, you want to slide it as far as the spacer will go with the large bracket. So you can kind of fit that around the bottom here. Slide this on, and it should fit pretty snugly like this, so it might take a little bit of working to get it on there. And now you'll see this black spacer. Once it's flush with the large bracket, you can pull it off, and the encoder is now aligned. Now that we have the disc in place, we're going to use the small Allen wrench that comes with the kit to tighten these 2 set screws on the disc. Now we're going to slide this module into place. You'll see that there's a cluster of 8 pins and then 4 pins. You're going to want the 8 pins to be closer to the spindle, the 4 pins to be facing away. And you'll see on the bracket there are 2 small plastic headers coming out. And you're going to slide this over, making sure not to damage the plastic part of the disc. And this should fit right into those 2 headers. You'll see it fits kind of snugly there. Now we're going to use the 2 panhead screws that come with the kit. And we're going to tighten this into place. And now we can do the last part, which is fitting the cap over the entire module. And using 2 flathead screws, we'll go ahead and secure that. And now we have the encoder installed. Here we have our encoder cable. You'll see a black end and then a clearish mini fit end. We're going to go ahead and plug in the encoder portion to the encoder kit. And the other end will go into this mini I/O port. This is an accessory that can come with the Compact Series controller. And be sure to check out our other video on how to install the mini I/O board if you purchase that accessory. Now that we have our encoder kit installed, we're going to go ahead and show you an example of threading. We're going to cut a 1/4 20-inch thread into one of these rods, which we have chucked up here on the lathe. As with all cutting, we're going to make sure to have our safety glasses on. And we also have our Pro Tap cutting fluid for a smoother cut. When we're finished, we'll be able to apply this 1/4 20 nut on the piece. So in our program, the first thing we're going to do is show you the RPMs of the spindle. So we'll go ahead and turn the spindle on. And under controller, you can see spindle speed here. And this will show you the reading for the spindle speed. On the actual lathe, you can go ahead and speed up or slow down by manually twisting this knob. We're going to keep it around 100, maybe slightly over. As you can see, we have a G-code pulled up here. FlashCut uses the industry standard G-code for cutting threads. If you look at our lathe here, you can see that the center point, the X0, is at the middle of the rod, and Z0 is slightly off, about 1/10 of an inch off of the rod. Before we begin, we're going to go up to configuration, and under machine, you'll see threading at the bottom. The default for the spindle encoder resolution is 1000. We went ahead and changed that to 500. As you can see, FlashCut supports spring passes. We're going to set this to 5 and click OK. And you can find more about that and the G76 G code in the FlashCut manual under Help. We're going to go ahead and click Start now. With the encoder reading the spindle positioning, the Z-axis is able to perfectly adjust for it. And on the second pass, you'll notice that it cuts through on the exact same path as the first time. We'll go ahead and apply some of our cutting fluid. Now that we've finished cutting, we'll go ahead and turn off the spindle and move the tool out of the way. Here we have a 1/4 20 nut. We're going to go ahead and screw that onto the piece. As you can see, it looks like we've got a perfect cut using the FlashCut controls. An additional accessory that we offer is the spindle speed isolation box. This works with the Sherline spindle to enable software control of the spindle speed. On the back side here, you can see a switch that has manual and CNC. If it's switched to manual, you can control the spindle speed by twisting the knob. When you flip it to CNC, you can now go to our software and control the spindle speed. Like the encoder kit, the spindle speed control box requires a classic or mini I/O expansion board, which is an add-on to any of our control boxes. In order to use the spindle speed box, we're going to go to the software, and under configuration, we'll go to I/O and then variable output. We've set a range for the spindle speed RPM and have clicked Show Controls on main screen. You can learn more about configuration in our user guide. Now we're going to click OK and go back to the main screen. We now have this slider bar and pull down menu on the main screen showing the spindle RPMs. This allows you to set the RPMs from the software. Make sure that your spindle speed box is set to CNC, and now you can go ahead and set an RPM. To double check that it's working, we can go to Controller, Spindle Speed, and you'll see that the RPMs match the spindle speed that we've set. This concludes our video on the encoder kit. If you have any questions about the encoder kit, the spindle speed box, or threading, feel free to call or email us at the number or address below. From all of us here at FlashCut CNC, thank you for watching.